I talked to somebody with the Sanders campaign as I was driving over here, actually, and he said to me that what will happen if it's really close, going to what Jordan was reporting earlier, is that they're going to the campaign has legally begun the process of looking into whether or not this was a stolen election in New York. And that, if it's very close, that will be part of what they're going to be looking at going forward. Now, this isn't this is a middle-ranking person within the Sanders campaign, but he knows better than the four of us do anyway right now, and that's what they're telling him. So
yeah, well, so that's big story, right? And so throughout the day, we've been reporting about the voter purges in New York. The biggest one, over 120,000 Democratic voters purged from the rolls in Brooklyn. So now we've had a lot of instances, from my perspective, where, hey, what happened with all the big lines in Arizona and in Wisconsin, et cetera? None of those seem to break against Hillary Clinton. If they did, Hillary Clinton camp is not shy, right? They would make a big noise around, wait a minute, what happened here? This is outrageous. And you have to remember, the Democratic Party establishment is almost exclusively on the side of Hillary Clinton. She has all of the superdelegates for now, who are the Democratic politicians, Democratic insiders, and even in places where, in Nevada, where he was picking up extra delegates at the convention, Democratic parties calling in and yelling at the people working the convention to favor Hillary Clinton, and they wouldn't do it. Even the Hillary Clinton supporters sat down in unity with the Bernie Sanders supporters, locked arms when police showed up, and said, no, we're not going to rig it the way the Democratic Party wants us to, okay? Which was actually an amazing moment. So when you have the Democratic Party establishment against you, this is part of how it hurts you.
And well, one of the postscripts also to this is going to be that the Sanders campaign, like the rule or not, the rules have been known for a long time. The Sanders campaign is going to come under a lot of criticism for not getting these independents to know 6 months ago. Now, it's, in fairness, you didn't know that Bernie was going to be doing what he's doing now 6 months later, but it's part of what you do when you're a campaign is get people motivated. You know the rules. The Clinton people knew the rules. The Sanders people know the rules. New voters, which the Sanders people have counted on a lot, don't have to go through it. You could, up until March 25th, you could have registered as a Democrat to vote in this if you were a new voter. But if you were not registered in a party and you've already voted, you couldn't have done it except 6 months out. The Sanders campaign knew that, and I bet there's going to be a lot of the post-mortem should Sanders lose in New York, saying that they kind of blew it with that. And in point of fact, it may be that they did, but it may have been incredible foresight to have thought it would have
Yeah,
mattered.
I don't think that's fair. Yeah, so look, I will say, if you didn't register enough voters by March 25th, new voters, okay, that's on you, right? And you should get criticism for that. But to have known back in October that the New York primary, in the middle of the primary season, would be hotly contested, and that you should hurry up and figure out that they were going to do voter purges and make
but here's
sure
the thing, the way a
that
campaign,
people switch over to the
right.
Democratic Party.
Jake,
I mean,
you're
that is-
right.
and especially when you have so many other priorities.
You're right, but you also have a New York campaign working for Sanders, right? The national campaign doesn't have to. What else do the New York people have to do except remind independent voters to do that?
But even if they did that, they're pushing a big rock
of course they are.
a hill.
I
right?
think it's a terrible argument. I'm just saying you're going to hear that.
You're not going to motivate voters to switch before they even know the candidate 6 months out, right? Now they'd be super motivated. But that's why the New York rule is so unfair. But again, separate out this because it's very important. The unfair rule that New York has that you have to switch over to being a Democrat if you want to vote in a Democratic primary 6 months ahead of time. Okay, that is not why the Bernie Sanders camp would contest this election. Okay, that's always been the case. It's a bad rule, but it's not any different this election, right? The contested part comes in, why were all those voters purged? Why did people who've been voting Democrat their whole lives all of a sudden become unaffiliated, right? And so some of it is explainable because of Sandy Hook. Some people voted in different places than they were allowed to because that happened right before elections in 2012. But some people, when they voted in a different place, had their party affiliation switch from Democrat to unaffiliated. So now they can't vote. That's totally monumentally unfair. Some of them will have gotten provisional ballots. Others will not have gotten provisional ballots. That's further unfair, right? So there is a great number of issues out there. And then some are not explained by Sandy Hook, and we don't know why they got purged. So that's why you would bring a case and go, hey, let's figure this out. But because it is an awfully large coincidence that the biggest voter purge happened to be in the borough where Bernie Sanders was born.